Yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, right? Check. I think the smoking jacket is on. Check. Paloma. I think that's a check because we got one right here. I think you guys know what that means, right? It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We got to break down all 12 fights on the UFC Vegas 57 card that's coming up this Saturday. That's going to be headlined by Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot. A great 5-round fight here in the lightweight division that I can't wait to break down. We've already broken it down on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, and I've already broken down to the Balls Deep breakdown on the MMA Engine YouTube channel this week for the co-main event, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Neil Magny. The links to both of those videos, the link to Stat Diggers, the link to the stats that we're going to be showing on today's show are all included in the description of this video. How is everybody out there doing? I hope you're feeling better than I was feeling on Saturday night. I have lost 4 events in a row, had 4 down events in a row, culminating with last week getting reverse swept and getting my ass shaved to the tune of 5.85 units. I believe it's my worst gambling loss tracked ever. And I believe it's the first time I've ever been reverse swept. So lost money on the fight goes to decision for the curtain jerker, Dolidze Dawkins. I lost money on the probability parlay, which was the fight doesn't go for Duraev and the fight goes for Giannis Kelly. Lost a little bit on Kelly by decision, 1/4 of a unit. Lost 1/4 of a unit on some round sprinkles for Court McGee. Had the fight ends by KO for the main event. That didn't happen. Had the over 2.5 for the Court McGee fight. That didn't happen. Just basically everything. Oh, and 1 unit on Julian Marquez's finish only prop. So Marquez finished for the first time ever, cost me money. Tony Kelly finished for the first time ever, cost me money. Kyle Dawkins finished for the first time ever, cost me money. And then Court McGee finished for the second time ever, cost me money. So a lot of firsts that I bet, with the trends, the regression really came and bit me on my ass this weekend. But we got to put those losses or the wins in the rearview mirror, keep our eyes looking forward, keep them on the prize, and get that money back. In order to do that, we got to do our research. We got to put the work in. We got to watch tape, and we got to come up with some good reads and find some lines where we're going to find some value. So that is going to be the goal of today's show. What's going on with everybody out there in the chat? Well, let me see. We got my guy Mark Schillingberg first in the room saying Tuesday night, it's time for Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. Yes. Oi. Much love and respect, Weezy. Appreciate the hard work. I appreciate you, Mark. Thanks for hanging out. My guy Brandon saying, oi, I have 3 alarms set. I'm not sleeping through this one. I appreciate you, Brandon. You're always here supporting, and I love you for it, man. Daz File saying, 1 hour out to here already. Goddamn impossible to be first these days. Most devoted viewers anywhere. Let's go. What's up, Daz Files? We got Mushroom saying, oi, yes, robes, palomas, ass shavings, orange bag beatings, flapjacks, and everyone's favorite uncle. It must be Tuesday. You got that right, buddy. Let's go. We got Prince of Mischief in here saying, be nice, Weezy. What Liang Na means to Brady is what Vanessa Demopoulos means to me. Huge fan here. Maybe the MMA gods be in your favor. Let's go, King. Dude, I'm a big fan of Vanessa Demopoulos myself. I'm Greek. She's Greek. Love that toughness. Love that Spartan attitude that she always brings to the cage. Very dangerous submission grappler. I'm rooting for her this weekend, but I might have a bet on Jinh Frey. But I'll tell you what, Prince of Mischief, I already have a bet on the little monster Vanessa Demopoulos. So stay tuned. We'll be letting you know about that. And Andy MG saying, oi, what's up, Weezy? A little early to the party, but I simply cannot wait for this Parisian versus Baudot breakdown. It's on the main card for a reason, my friend. Cheers, and let's stack them high this weekend. Let's do it, Andy. Thanks for hanging out. My guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, oi, yes. What's up, Weezy? Got my ass Brazilian waxed by the bookies last weekend. That makes 2 of us, Vic. Got to get back on track this weekend. Let's shave ass. Let's go, Victor. Let's get it. F. Carrillo saying, yes, sir. Let's get it. Yes. Oi. My guy F always supporting the show, always hanging out, always supporting Pub Sports Radio. Always appreciate you. Much love to F. Carrillo. Valerie Marcel saying, Uncle storytelling time with Weezy tonight? Not tonight. Too much work to do on these fights. I don't have a story queued up. Like I've been saying lately, a lot of my best stories are stuff that I couldn't tell on YouTube for fear of getting my channel demonetized. So I gotta come up with some new stories for you guys, some ones that are a little more PG rated. Kristen saying, oi, glad to be burning the midnight oil with Weezy and the gang. Best of luck to everyone. Kristen, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you for coming by. Kevin saying, I think I can get one more UFC 4 match in before. Hopefully you did. Daz Files saying, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Uncle Weezy, what's up, Daz Files? M.A. Liren saying, oi, back at it. We won last week with so many unexpected early finishes. Let's get this extra syrup on the ticket flapjacks at this event. Let's get it, M.A. My guy Equity Sports Analytics in the room saying, what's up? We got Mushroom saying, Demopoulos, third decision, fading Jinh fraud. Yeah, man, it's that line is wide. It's very wide. Cuban Assassin saying, Weezy, Wheeze, let's get that Keith Peterson odor eliminator air freshener money. Ed Hardy forever. Oh my God, Ed Hardy. I forgot about those shirts. They were not good, man. Travis M saying, oi, love the show. Keep up the good work, Weezy. Appreciate you, Travis. Thanks for coming and hanging out and commenting. Danny Sue saying, oi, what's up, everybody? Kevin saying, packed bowl, check. We got Jarno Portilla saying, let's make money. And we got F. Carrillo saying the sexy long hair is down and in effect. Absolutely, man. It's Tuesday night. Got to give you the best version of your Uncle Weezy that I possibly can because it's the biggest show of the week, baby. It's time for just the tip. My guy Chris for the Love MMA saying, oi, respect and ready for the tip. Let's go, Chris. Good to see you in here hanging out. Nathan saying, yes, sir, let's go. MMA Code saying, oi, let's go. We got F. Carrillo saying, I'm digging Demopoulos. I do too, man. I do too. Mushroom saying, what's up to all my fellow D-Gens in the chat? Violence, hell yeah. Cole Stein saying, oi, Unk, itching for some flapjack Sunday morning. Let's go. DJ saying, the people want an hour-long balls-deep breakdown of the real main event, Parisian versus Baudot. We're talking about maybe doing something like that where we all get drunk late one night, me and Lou and Brady and Monk, and just have a fun balls deep breakdown on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for that fight. It would be so much fun. Oh man, we got Jeff K saying just put down some Lou's and it felt like they made it exceptionally saucy, deep, crispy. It was perfect. Lou's is so good, Jeff. You got me hungry, man. We got Andy saying we all know the people's main event is Parisian versus Baudot. It is the highest level fight on the card. RJ saying, Uncle Weezy looking more and more like Chris Jericho to me. I don't know why. You just made the list, buddy. We got my guy F. Carrillo. Ring a ding ding. First donation of just the tip tonight. And, this guy is donating every single week, supporting, commenting, encouraging everybody to hit that thumbs up button. F. Carrillo, much love to you, my family. Appreciate you. Thanks for constantly supporting the show through good times and bad, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, dude. Z Goler saying, let's stack these tickets. Let's go. Oh, he says, Brandon, the alarm must have worked. And let's see, we've got Vanessa saying, I thought Kyle killed my night. Yeah, Kyle killed my night to start, and then it just got worse from there. Vanessa going to work for my money. Let's go. Let's do it. Cam Glass saying, oh, what's up, Cam? We got Eagle Clan saying, yeah, hard to see Court McGee take the K. Yeah, it's the sport. And I said, if he just stood in front of Wells, that was, a very, very likely possibility. And, he was kind of like working his way into the grappling probably, but he didn't shoot any takedowns. And, that was one hell of a left hook, man, and it was right on the button, deaded him. Saw a Court post on Twitter today that the CAT scan came back good, so I was really happy to hear that. I'm anxious to see Court McGee back in there again, one of my favorite fighters. At F. Carrillo, hell yeah, man. Yeah, hard to see Court take the KO for sure. Magny getting that ass shaved. Oh, I mean, dude, the Shavkat's such a finisher. Juan Chavez saying, oi. Tom is saying, oi. Luke Betcha in the room saying, I'm crashing out after a 2-hour show with Couch Warrior. Good luck, everyone. We'll catch this tomorrow. Let's do it, man. Tristan saying, let's get it, Weezy. Mr. Jingle saying, oi. Ready for the greasy four-legger. We got Brandon saying, thank God we don't get to watch that cheating scumbag Tim Elliott. Yeah, he had to pull out, and they couldn't find an opponent for Albazi. For the record, I'm in favor of that drinking plan. Got it, man. Got it. Sean Marriott saying, oi, from New Zealand. What's up, man? F. Carrillo saying good night to Lou Betya. Oxygen 3000 saying, your choice for this week's ass shaving may be a humdinger. Thanks for all you do, Weezy. Thank you, all of you, for hanging out on a Tuesday night with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, for just the tip. Let's get into it. Let's see if my guy. Oh yeah, I'm already sharing the screen. I didn't realize that. I was just gonna have you make you look at my full screen face here, but nah, let's not do that. Let's get you back to the right spot here. We've already got the Vanessa Demopoulos versus Jinh Frey statistics up here, and I've got my notes over here. So let's look at what we've got. The measurables, I've got the advantage to Jinh Frey here, even though Vanessa Demopoulos is 4 years younger. We got Jinh with a 2 inches taller and a 3-inch reach advantage. When we go to the experience, I'm giving the advantage to Frey as well. She has 6 more pro fights, 115 more minutes of pro cage time, 4.5 more years as a pro, and 1 more UFC level fight, and about 25 more minutes in the UFC cage. And when it comes to the finish stats and durability, though, I'm giving the advantage there to Vanessa Demopoulos, obviously, as Vanessa has finished 71% of her pro fights inside the distance, 57% by sub, 14% by knockout. That's 5 of her 7 wins, and her only UFC win did come by submission. While we see Jinh Frey, she can't even finish a banana in the morning. She's got an 18% sub rate, 9% knockout rate, and in her 2 wins at the UFC level, she hasn't finished anybody. And Vanessa Demopoulos, in her 4 career losses, has never been finished. She's very, very durable, very tough, has an excellent chin. While Jinh Frey has been finished in 3 of her 6 losses, she's been knocked out twice and submitted once. So definitely a nice little advantage there for Demopoulos in the finish stats and the durability. When it comes to the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Jinh Frey here. Neither lady is really known for being like this great striker. However, Frey has a 3-inch reach advantage here, and she's a southpaw. Vanessa has shown a 39% striking defense thus far. And she hasn't shown the ability to win minutes on the feet. So I believe Frey should have the advantage in the stand-up. This fight kind of reminds me of Kay Hansen versus Jinh Frey, where Kay is probably a little bit better and a little more complete of a striker than Vanessa is at this point. And, you know, both Kay and Vanessa require to get the fight to the ground to be at their most comfortable. And, you know, I really kind of see Vanessa needing to get this fight to the ground, needing to be in the grappling in order to be at her most dangerous. But the problem is that Vanessa is 0 for 7 on her takedown attempts thus far in the UFC. So when it comes to the grappling, though, I mean, it's pretty easy to give the advantage to Vanessa Demopoulos here. Vanessa's very dangerous on the ground. She's constantly hunting for submissions. 4 of her 7 pro wins are by submission, and almost 58% of her 32.4 minutes in the UFC cage have been spent in control time positions for and against. The problem here is that I don't see Vanessa being able to get this fight to the ground, as she's 0 for 7 on her takedown attempts, and she's getting out-controlled by her opponents. Look at this, 51.26% to 6.43%. Add to that fact that Frey is showing 90% takedown defense, stuffing 18 of the 20 attempts that have come her way. It makes it look really grim for Vanessa to be able to go out there and try to control this girl. She's going to have to try to find ways to either maybe pull guard or cage wrestle. And if she's going to improve her cage wrestling, she's at the right camp. Vanessa's been training at Fight Ready, and you know we know that they concentrate quite a bit on the cage wrestling there. So perhaps Vanessa can win some minutes in the clinch. Perhaps she can land a big shot like she did against Cynthia Arcio that kind of sent her to the shadow realm, which is the one that got her back into the UFC here. As she lost to Lupi Godinez by majority decision. She lost in the Contender Series to Corey McKenna then beat Arcio in like the first 15 seconds of that fight. And then she's lost to JJ Aldrich up at 125, and then got knocked down by Silvana Gomez Juarez and was that close. That fight was very close to being stopped, but Vanessa was able to get an overhook on her right side and wind up getting an arm bar and finishing that fight in the first round. And we see that, Jinh Frey lost to Kay Hansen by submission in round 3, lost the unanimous decision to Loma, and then she beat Gloria DePaula and beat Ashley Yoder. So, I'm giving the strength of schedule advantage actually to Demopoulos here, as the win-loss ratio of Vanessa's competition is 1.33, as we can see right here, compared to 0.58 for Jinh Frey, and they are equally experienced. So I would say advantage Vanessa. So, I'm picking, though, Jinh Frey to win this fight by decision, because I think she's going to be able to win the minutes in the striking exchanges. And as long as she can keep this fight off the cage, and as long as she can keep it at distance, that 3-inch reach advantage, the fact that she's a southpaw and her power side strikes will be open for business, I think will be enough to win the minutes on the ground or on the feet against Vanessa, who, is landing 3 significant strikes a minute and, absorbing over 4.6. So, her opponents are landing about 1.5 strikes for every one that she lands, while Jinh Frey it's the same thing, about 2.86 landed, but 4 absorbed, but she's very low volume. And the problem is that Jinh Frey is just going to be a lot better defensively and have that reach advantage. So I see her winning minutes on the feet here, and I have, I do think that Jinh Frey wins this fight by decision. But what I'm going to do is I've made a bet, and that is on the scorecards equals no action for Vanessa Demopoulos, because I feel that at plus 190, where it is right now on Bet Online, Vanessa Demopoulos has finished 5 of her 7 wins, while Jinh Frey has finished just over 25% of her career wins. Jinh Frey has been finished in 3 of her 6 losses. Vanessa Demopoulos has never been finished, and she's fought in 5-round fights. So I really like Vanessa's durability, and I think she's much more dangerous of a moment winner with her power strikes and with her submission grappling. So decision, no bet, plus 190 for Little Monster is a fantastic look in my opinion. And let me see if it's still there. Yep, still plus 190 on Bet Online. So that is a tracked bet that I made for 1 unit to win 1.9. And all I have to worry about is that Jinh Frey doesn't finish Vanessa Demopoulos. She would be the first one to do so. And Jinh Frey hasn't finished anybody in a very long time. So the pick is Jinh Frey by decision, but the bet is Vanessa Demopoulos. Scorecards equals no action, 1 unit at plus 190. My guy Evan L says I took that as well, and Danny's saying is Vanessa decision no bet a viable play here? Absolutely, man, absolutely. So yes, let's move. Oh, and I didn't even put the banner up on the screen. So the banner tells us that Vanessa Demopoulos sitting at plus 235, Jinh Frey minus 275, and the fight doesn't go to decision, plus money at plus 160. But let's move on to the next fight. This one is going to be Brian Kelleher, Boom, as he is also known, going up against Mario Bautista. We got Kelleher, the underdog, here at plus 145. Mario Bautista, minus 170. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 120. So in these measurable numbers, we got a big advantage for Bautista here. He's 7 years younger. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys switch stances, and we've obviously got a massive experience advantage here for Brian Kelleher. 26 more pro fights, 220 more minutes of cage time, over 6 more years as a pro, 9 more UFC level fights, 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. So yeah, big experience advantage for Kelleher, big size and measurables advantage for Bautista. When we go to the finish stats and durability, I'm giving the advantage to Kelleher here, as not only does Brian have a better career finish rate, it's 75% in comparison to 66% for Bautista, but he's also finishing at a higher rate in the UFC, as Brian is finishing at 63% in the UFC, 5 of 8, while for Bautista, it's 1 of his 3 wins. Neither guy's been particularly durable, though. But Kelleher has the edge here, as Bryan has been stopped in 4 of 6 losses and 8 of 13 pro losses. However, Bautista's been finished in 100% of his 2 pro losses. So, Kelleher's getting finished at a lower percentage, and he's finishing at a higher percentage. And because there's a bigger sample size of fights, I think it's safe to give him the edge in terms of the durability and the finish stats, although neither one of these guys is particularly durable, as Kelleher finished in 8 of 13 pro losses, 2 of 2 for Bautista. So that is 10 of 15 losses, 2/3 of them combined inside the distance for these guys. And they're both finishing at least the 2/3 rate as a pro. So, yeah, the chances of this one finishing inside the distance, I'd say, are actually pretty good. When it comes to the striking stats, I'm going to give the advantage to Bautista here. Mario has the far superior significant strike differential here, as his is negative 0.97 for Kelleher, while for Bautista it's positive 1.29. He's 6% more accurate. He's on par in his knockdowns for 15 minutes here with Kelleher at 0.33 and 0.36. But it's Bautista who's been chinnier, as he's absorbing 0.65 knockdowns per 15 minutes in comparison to 0.24 for Kelleher. And Bautista is also outvoluming his opponents by 1.67 significant strike attempts per minute, while Kelleher is getting outvolumed by 1.85. So, I mean, just in those stats right there, Bautista's got the better metrics over his 5-fight sample size than Kelleher does in his 14-fight sample size. Let's see, Bautista is efficient in the grappling exchanges here. Or wait, I should say that Bryan Kelleher is out-takedowning attempting his opponents while out-controlling his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio here. So we definitely like that. Bryan has won 3 of his 8 UFC wins by submission, and he has a great guillotine. So I think I'm going to give that the grappling edge to Kelleher. But Bautista is very efficient in the grappling exchanges, almost out-controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, as we can see right here, despite the fact that he's attempting 6 less takedowns than his opponents. He's got a much better takedown defense than his opponents do, and he's landing his takedowns at a 55% clip. So about 70% of Bautista's fights are taking place at striking range, while for Kelleher, it's about 57%. So it seems like Bautista spends more time on the feet at striking range, while Kelleher is a little more comfortable in the grappling exchanges. And it's also important to note that Mario has never attempted a submission thus far in the UFC, and he's had less commitment to the offensive grappling than Bryan has. As we can see, 9 takedown attempts in only 5 fights for Bautista, while we see 40 takedown attempts in 14 fights for Kelleher. And when it comes to the strength of schedule, I'm giving the advantage to Kelleher as well. As we can see, the ratio here, 1.75, better than Bautista's at 1.38. And the total fights, so Kelleher is also fighting the more experienced competition here with 7.86 total fights in comparison to 3.8 for Bautista. The ratio, 1.36 in the wins compared to 1.2 for Bautista. So a little bit better wins for Kelleher, a little bit better overall. And in terms of the losses, they're also better. So a nice clear advantage, I believe, for Kelleher here in the strength of schedule, in the experience, and probably in the grappling, while I think the measurables and the striking go to Bautista. And then we also got to remember that Kelleher is just a little bit more durable and finish at a little bit better rate at the UFC level. So I think when you put it all together, Kelleher's ability to be able to get takedowns lately and be able to use that part of his game in order to win minutes like he did against Pilardi and like he did against Kevin Kroom is going to be key here, because Bautista is a big dude. But, if he can get Bautista down to the ground and win minutes there, I don't think Bautista is going to be that much better on the feet. As, even though the metrics look a lot better for Bautista, it's been Kelleher who's been fighting the better brand of competition here. So, I think fight doesn't go to decision, which is sitting up at Fight doesn't go sitting at minus 120. Could be interesting here. If we look at the prop template for this fight, Kelleher, Bautista, 34 of their 48 combined pro fights have finished inside the distance. That's almost 71%. And at the UFC level, they're finishing for and against at a 63.2% rate, while the line is only 54%, and the division is really only finishing at a 49% rate. So we're overpaying based on the divisional finish rate by about 5.11%, but we're underpaying on that line at minus 120 by about 8.6% based on the fact that 12 of these guys' 19 combined UFC fights have finished inside the distance. And more importantly than that, 6 of 8 losses. So, we like seeing both guys being not very durable when we're picking fights to finish inside the distance. So I think the fight doesn't go as a decent look. And I think I'd rather have the dog money here on Kelleher because I don't think Bautista is going to be that much better on the feet in comparison to Kelleher, but he should be the minute winner there. But I also think that Kelleher is the much more live guy to win minutes on the ground here. And if he's able to do that, I'd much rather be holding the plus money ticket, especially when it's sitting at almost plus 150 at this point. So, yeah, I do like Kelleher here on the money line, and I like the fight doesn't go to decision. The next fight is going to be JP Buys versus Cody Durden. And let's see here. We have got Cody Durden sitting at plus money here at plus 100. JP Buys juiced up to minus 120. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus money right now at about plus 115. And let's see. We've got my guy, JP Buys, 26 years old. Cody Durden is 31. So in these measurables, I would say it's even because we've got Cody Durden with a 2-inch height advantage, and he's a southpaw. But we also see that JP Buys is 5 years younger, and they have the exact same reach. So we like the fact that Cody's a little taller and is the southpaw, and we like the fact that JP Buys is younger. When it comes to the experience, I'm giving a slight edge to Cody Durden here, as he has about 4 more fights and about 20 more minutes in the pro cage. The UFC experience is very close, though. As you see, they both have four fights and right around 35 minutes in the pro cage. And when we look at the finish stats and the durability, also, once again, very close here. Buys finishing at an 89% rate, so he's finished 8 of his 9 wins inside the distance. And for Durden, it's 84%. He's an equal opportunity finisher, finishing 5 by submission and 5 by knockout, while JP Buys is getting a few more submissions than he is knockouts. And in their 8 combined losses, 6 of them have been inside the distance. We see that Cody Durden, when he gets subbed or when he gets finished, he gets subbed. And when JP Buys loses, he's lost twice by knockout and once by submission. So, it's very close in the finish stats and the durability as well. Getting up here to the striking stats thus far, and we got a 4-fight sample size for both of them. I'm going to give the advantage to Durden here, but just a very slight edge. While both guys are absorbing more significant strikes than they land, and they also get out-volumed by their opponents as well, it's Durden who's more accurate here at 46% compared to 43%. And he's better defensively, as he's got a 48% striking defense, which isn't great, but it's better than 42.7% for JP Buys. And he's a lot less chinny. Look, JP Buys has been knocked down on 8% of the significant strikes that he's landed. He's been knocked down 7 times in 4 UFC fights, 4 times against Montel Jackson, 3 times against Bruno Silva. He's absorbing almost 3 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So the problem here is that while the striking numbers are really pretty close, they both get outlanded. They both get out volume. They're both not great defensively. They're both not particularly accurate. It's just Durden who's a little bit better in all those categories. And yeah, Durden's been knocked down once in 4 fights, but it's been 7 times for JP Buys. So while neither one of them has landed a knockdown, the fact that JP Buys is getting hit so often and is not absorbing it well is very, very difficult to give him the advantage in the striking exchanges. When it comes to the grappling, I'm giving the advantage to Durden here. Cody's takedown accuracy, takedowns for 15 and control time ratios, and takedown defense are all superior statistically to Baez. Baez much less efficient in the grappling compared to Durden. Durden is susceptible to submissions, though. So we see here that Durden is out controlling his opponents at a little bit better than a 5-to-1 ratio. He's out takedowning his opponents 10-2, and he's out takedown attempting his opponents at about a 5-to-1 ratio as well. JP Baez has 4 takedowns, and he's gotten takedowns 6 times. He's attempting 13 takedowns while his opponents have only attempted 8. But he's getting out-controlled at a 2-to-1 ratio here, 40% to 18%. So it's hard to give JP Baez the grappling advantage when he's losing minutes in the grappling. For every minute that he's controlling his opponents, he's getting controlled for 2 minutes by his opponents. And Cody Durden is pretty much doing the exact opposite of that, doing a good job of winning those minutes that are in control time positions. And you see about 46% of his fights thus far on the aggregate are in those control time positions. So I like Durden's efficiency. And some of you guys might be saying, well, what about Baez's wrestling background? The guy's, supposedly trying to get on the South African wrestling team. Well, South Africa is not a country that has this great wrestling pedigree. So it really doesn't mean much that he was wrestling in South Africa. We know he's a good wrestler for MMA, and we've seen him use it effectively, not only in the UFC, but on the regional scene. But Cody Durden's a high school state champion. So it's not like this guy doesn't have a wrestling background of his own, and like he can't wrestle for MMA. Is we're proving this guy's getting his takedowns at almost a 40% clip and controlling his opponents almost 40% of the cage time that he's been in there so far. So I got to give Durden that edge as well. And then when we go to the strength of schedule, it's advantage Durden here as he's fighting guys with a 4-to-1 win-to-loss ratio, while for JP Baez, he's facing losing fighters on the aggregate. And the only guy that he's beaten didn't have a UFC win, while the guys that he's losing to were 500 fighters. Cody Durden has 1 win against Aori Quileng, and he's lost to Muhammad Makayev, and he's also lost to Jimmy Flick, and both of those guys have no losses at the UFC level, so there's no ratio there. So Cody Durden has definitely faced the better brand of competition thus far. JP Baez did take a fight up at 135 against Montel Jackson. Obviously, he lost that fight, and Bruno Silva's a 500 fighter. So, yeah, I think that Durden, the fact that he can handle the wrestling that Baez brings, and that, I don't have any evidence to suggest that JP Baez is going to be the far better wrestler here. And if I don't have that evidence, I kind of have to feel like Cody Durden wins this fight. And Cody at plus 100 here, I think is the best way to play this one. Also, if we take a look at this prop template, you guys, this is very important. We're going to see a lot of green here under the fight doesn't go to decision. And that's because 18 of their 21 wins are inside the distance. That's 86%. 6 of their 8 combined losses inside the distance, 75%. So their fights are finishing on the pro level at an 80% clip. That would be like a minus 400 fight doesn't go to decision. And even at the UFC level, these guys are finishing at a 5 out of 8 clip. 4 of their 5 losses inside the distance are both getting finished. And we haven't seen JP Baez show good conditioning. So that's another thing that you love in a killer be killed fighter like Baez. So 5 of 8 fights finishing inside the distance at the UFC level, that's 62.5%. That's much better than the 40% finish rate of the division. And it's 17% better than the implied probability of the line not to go to decision at plus 120. So that is 45% of an implied probability, but these guys are finishing inside the distance at 62.5%. So I like the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, and I think Cody Durden wins this fight. Let's go to the next one. So we've got Raulian Paiva going up against Sergey Morozov. Paiva is the underdog here at plus 115. Morozov minus 135. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus money at plus 130. Hang on just a second, you guys. Okay. Just going through something here real quick. Okay, cool. All right. So Paiva against Morozov. We've got 26 years old for Raulian Paiva, 33 for Sergey Morozov. So it's going to be Paiva is two inches taller, has a 2-inch reach advantage, and 7 years younger here. So we love the measurables here for Raulian. We got an experience advantage here for Raulian Paiva as well, as he's got 2 more professional fights, 5 more minutes in the cage, and despite being a pro for 5.5 years less than Morozov has, because Morozov's got over a 14-year career, Paiva actually has 4 more fights at the UFC level, and he's got about 45 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to these durability and finish stats, the advantage goes to Morozov, as Morozov is the much better finish rate as a pro in comparison to Paiva. We see 66% finish rate here for Sergey Morozov and only a 33% finish rate for Raulian Paiva, as 75% of Paiva's fights that he's lost have been finishes, and for Morozov, it's actually 83%. So 5 of 6 losses inside the distance for Morozov, 3 of 4 losses inside the distance for Paiva. So that is 10 of 12 losses coming inside the, 9 of 12. That is 75%. Definitely a very, very big percentage there. So, it's 5 and 3. So it's 8 of 10, 80% of their combined losses coming inside the distance for these two guys. Really something else. So Morozov has the better finish rate. Neither one is very durable. I'm going to give the edge to Morozov, though, just because he is the better finisher, and they're both getting finished at a pretty high clip. Now, when it comes to the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Paiva here. Paiva's striking differential is not as good as Morozov's. It's negative 0.98, as we can see here, in comparison to Morozov's negative 0.18. And his accuracy is worse than Morozov's, and so is his defense, actually. We see 49% defense and 58% defense for Sergey Morozov. But Paiva's going to have that 2-inch reach advantage, and he prefers to keep fights standing, as 84% of Paiva's fights take place at striking range, while for Morozov, it's only 53%. So it appears that Paiva's more comfortable at the striking range. Plus, Morozov's been losing moments in the striking due to being knocked down on over 3%, as we can see right there, of the significant strikes that he's absorbing, while for Paiva, it's 0.5%. And we see Paiva being knocked down about 0.39 times per 15 minutes, while it's 1.4 for Morozov. So even though Morozov's aggregates are better, the accuracy is better, the defensive is better, he's just a lot chinnier and does show a little more power as well. But I think that Paiva's volume and his willingness to keep the fight standing is probably going to have him being the one with that 2-inch reach advantage that kind of handles the striking exchanges and looks better there. And just from what I see on tape, too, it seems like Morozov is just trying to take his opponent's head off with everything that he throws, while Paiva seems to be more touch, move, and seems to have a little more process to what he's doing on the feet to make me think that he's got a better chance to win minutes there. Excuse me. Okay. In the grappling, we see Morozov doing some nice work here in the grappling, as he's attempted 21 takedowns in only 3 fights. I've got to give Morozov the advantage in the grappling here. He's the far more committed wrestler. Paiva's only attempting about 2 takedowns per fight, while for Morozov, it's 7. Morozov getting those takedowns at a higher clip. Look at that, 3.28 takedowns per 15 minutes to only 0.6 for Paiva. And we see Morozov out-controlling his opponents at about a 3-to-1 ratio, while for Paiva, it's about a 1.5-to-1 ratio. But it's important to note, about 83% of Paiva's fights taking place at striking range, while for Morozov, it's 53%. And they're both getting taken down about 2 times per 15 minutes, but it's Morozov who's had submissions attempted against him, and is showing the lower percentage of takedown defense at 61.5 in comparison to 75% for Paiva. But If we look at Paiva's opponents here, no takedowns. He's okay with the wrestling, but he doesn't really go for it much. Giagos goes for a ton of wrestling, but doesn't get takedowns. He's very low percentage. De La Rosa, not good. Bontarin, he will wrestle, but Morozov is a guy who will wrestle relentlessly. He's he's Kazakhstani, but he cut his teeth at M1 and was always fighting there, so he had to be an amazing wrestler in order to beat those Central Asians and Russians. So I think Morozov will be the guy that's winning minutes in the grappling here. And we see that Paiva has got the advantage, though, when it comes to strength of schedule, as his ratio is better and he's fighting the more experienced competition, and the wins are also better for Raulian Paiva in comparison to Sergey Morozov, and the losses are better as well. So I like Paiva's measurables. I like the striking of Paiva. I like the strength of schedule. I like the experience, too, of Paiva. So he checks a lot of the boxes here. The question is Morozov going to get his wrestling game going? Is he going to get his top control going? Is he going to be able to win a bunch of minutes there? And if he's able to do that, I like him to be able to win this fight. Like I say, both of these guys are getting finished a ton, but neither one of them are finishing at the UFC level, as they've got 5 combined wins at the UFC level, and only one of them has been a finish. But in their 5 combined losses at the UFC level, 4 of them have been finishes. So, it's hard to pick, whether one of these guys has a better chance to finish the other. But man, Morozov getting finished in 5 of 6 losses is not encouraging, just like Paiva getting finished in 3 of 4 is not encouraging. But I think that Morozov's commitment to the wrestling and ability to be able to win minutes in those wrestling exchanges can make up for what appears to be Paiva's ability to be able to win more minutes on the feet. So I am going to say that I'm picking Sergey Morozov to win this fight by decision. Headley one asking, how is Paiva off his back? He hasn't spent a whole lot of time there. One of the fights, I believe, doesn't have control time numbers, and that might have been the Nascimento fight. But he's not spending a lot of time there. But he is Brazilian, so that he's going to have some jiu-jitsu, and that he's good everywhere as Paiva. So I think he's going to be just fine there. All right, and let's see now. We've got the next fight is going to be Shayilan Nuerdanbieke going up against TJ Brown. And we've got Shayilan checking in at plus 180. TJ Brown at minus 210. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 150. All right, so in the measurables here, I like TJ Brown quite a bit. TJ's 1 inch taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, but it's going to be Shayilan, who's 4 years younger. Shayilan is an orthodox, while TJ Brown is constantly switching stances. That switch stance style is going to give Shayilan some problems on the feet. When it comes to experience, I have to give the experience edge to Shayilan, even though a lot of those fights are new. I think the last time I did Shayilan in his stats, I think he was something like 18-5, and now he's 37-10. They added a bunch of fights to his record, but we see that he's got 47 professional fights in only a 6-year career. So, that's a number that you just he's fighting 8 times a year, you guys. If you look on his Tapology profile, there's a 3-day stretch where he has 3 fights. He fought on December 30th, on New Year's Eve, and on New Year's Day. I don't think he was doing much partying like the rest of us might have been. So Shayilan fights all the time. A lot of these Chinese guys are incredibly active and are able to get a fight in every 2 months, and sometimes even more often than that if they want to. But it's TJ Brown who has more UFC level experiences. He's got 3 more UFC level fights and 36 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to finish stats and durability, I got to edge Brown here. TJ's got a better finish rate as a pro in comparison to Shah, 81% to 76%. And Brown's got a 33% finish rate at the UFC level, while Shah's never finished a UFC win, but he only has 1. Shah's been finished in a whopping 8 of 10 pro losses. but he's never been finished in the UFC level, while Brown has been finished in 6 of 8 pro losses, 3 by submission, 3 by knockout, and once in the UFC by submission. So when I go to the striking, though, I mean, this is obviously going to be an advantage TJ Brown all day. If you've watched Shayilan fight, you will know that this guy's not a striker. He's a pure wrestler. He doesn't have anything else that really goes with his game. TJ going to be the much better striker here. Shah's a pure wrestler, doesn't strike much, and when he does, it looks terrible, you guys. Shah couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. 30.36% striking accuracy, as we can see right here, and only lands 1.13 significant strikes per minute while absorbing 2.93. Brown has a significant strike differential of positive 1.05. He's landing with much more accuracy, sitting up at about 44%. And he's been knocked down on over 1% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed, but he's got a much better defensive percentage of 53 than Shayilan does at 45. And we see that also TJ Brown throws a lot more volume than his opponents. He's throwing about 1.5 significant strike attempts for every one that his opponents throw. 8.81 thrown, 6 come back his way, while Shayilan throws 3.73 per minute and only lands at a 30% clip, while his opponents are throwing 5.33 per minute. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to TJ Brown here. Shah's the better control grappler, and he's very committed to the wrestling, as he's attempted 22 takedowns here in only 30 minutes of UFC cage time. Shah looks to win minutes with cage control, wrestling, and top control. He hasn't attempted a submission yet in the UFC, despite spending 15 minutes in control time positions for and against. TJ also wrestles quite a bit. As you see, he's attempted 32 takedowns in only 5 fights, and that's in 67 minutes in the UFC cage. And he's gotten 62.5% of them. He averages 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes and 1.13 submission attempts per 15 minutes. His favorite sub is the arm triangle. And while Shah is the better grinder and minute winner and positional wrestler, it's Brown who's clearly the better submission grappler and will be way more alive to actually finish the fight in the grappling positions here. When it comes to the strength of schedule, it's advantage Brown, as we see that both of these guys are fighting guys with losing records on the whole. But look at that, 0.2 for Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, 0.58 for TJ Brown, and Brown is fighting the more experienced competition here. Shayilan is kind of behind an 8 ball here. In my opinion, he has to wrestle pretty much the entire time. TJ Brown's just going to be a lot more dangerous when this fight is on the feet. In addition to that, TJ Brown, while he doesn't have a wrestling background, he's a mixed martial artist, and he uses wrestling for mixed martial arts very well, as we see that he's attempted 32 takedowns in 5 fights, and even though he only has 36% takedown defense, he is only being controlled for 15.76% of his UFC cage time here, while he's out-controlling his opponents 25% to 15%. So even though Shayilan has done a great job of winning minutes and out-controlling his opponents, he's not – he could win maybe half, maybe 60% of the fight in control time positions, but still lose on the judges' scorecards because he doesn't do anything with it. He's just trying to hold people there. And at this point, I think the style of wrestling that Shayilan brings, he's going to have to be so effective and so dominant with it in order to win that decision, that I really think TJ Brown is going to be much more likely to win minutes on the feet here. And I think he's going to be far more dangerous when this thing goes on the ground, because his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very tricky, because he's such a talented submission grappler with 9 wins by submission. Wait, is it 9 or is it so it's 76.81%. So 13 for, so yeah, 9 wins by submission for TJ Brown. A lot of arm triangles, and he gets that arm triangle from a weird spot sometimes. It sometimes sneaks up on people. So I think Shayilan's going to kind of put himself right where TJ Brown is the most effective. And then if TJ Brown has any success whatsoever stuffing takedowns and being better in the grappling here, that I see Shayilan having very little chance to win this fight. And TJ Brown has been training with one Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell. So if there's one guy that can get you ready for a very grappling heavy game plan, it's that training partner in Bryce Mitchell here. So I like TJ Brown to win this fight, and I think he probably wins it by second round submission. Next fight is another good one, a good striker versus striker fight. As we've got Carlos Ulberg, the slight favorite here at minus 117, facing off against Tafon and Nchukwi at minus 103. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 200 for this fight. Oh, dear God. It looks like my guy Tajik Bey stopped by. And he said promises made, and the reason he's saying that is because on Monday night, while Brady and I were, on Sunday night on Stat Diggers, he said that he was going to be donating $100 to my channel through my YouTube channel, as he gave Pub Sports Radio a $5 donation on Stat Diggers. You guys know how supportive Tajik Bey has been of not just my channel, but of the entire community of YouTube content creators that do this to try to give us MMA nerds a place to go and watch some people who spend a good amount of their lives, a good amount of their time breaking down these fights. So when you get a donation like that, it's very humbling. Guys like F. Carrillo and Tajik Bey keeping the lights on this station. My guy Victor DeJesus, my guy Andy MG, my guy Prince of Mischief. I'm going to forget names here, but there are so many of you guys that have been, a stubborn Mick, have been donating to this channel. And I love all of you. I love everybody that supports the channel. I love everybody that comes here to watch. How many of you guys do we have rocking with you right now? 83 of you guys rocking with me 52 minutes into this Tuesday night show. Just a tip. Promises made. A man who does what he says and says what he does, Mr. Tajik Bey, the GOAT of the MMA community. Thank you so much for the incredibly generous donation, my brother. Thank you. But let's get back to business here, you guys, because that's what we have to do. And Valerie is saying Tafon's so slow. Danny's saying Tajik the GOAT for sure. Brandon saying the GOAT, man of his word. And Sloppy Second saying Ulberg couldn't finish Sharans. My God. Those 4 words right there are so poignant. They are so telling. Carlos Ulberg couldn't finish Fabio Cherant. And he's the favorite. So let's do it, you guys. Let's look at this here. So we've got the measurables here. Are definitely Ulberg when it comes to size, right? But they're actually even, you see, because Tafon and Nchukwi 4 years younger, but it's Ulberg who's 4 inches taller. He's the taller dude. But look at this. They both have a 77-inch reach. Usually somebody as muscular as Nchukwi is going to have shorter arms, but man, 77-inch reach. He's got that wide back. So yeah, they're both orthodox fighters, both coming out of really good camps here. When it comes to the experience, though, it's definitely the edge to Nchukwi. He's got 3 more pro fights, 35 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 2 more UFC level fights, and he's got about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage as well. And when it comes to this, the finish stats and the durability here, Nchukwi is the better finisher at 67% overall, all by knockout in comparison to 50% for Ulberg. And Ulberg has been finished in his only loss, while Nchukwi's been finished in 1 of 2 losses. They've both only been knocked out or knocked out their opponents. Neither one of these guys has ever submitted their opponent or been submitted. When it comes to the striking, I'm going advantage Ulberg here. Now, it's in the numbers. On paper thus far in the UFC, the numbers favor him. Carlos will be the better distance striker. He lands over 2 significant strikes for every 1 his opponent lands. He's 61.5% accurate and almost doubles the volume of his opponents here, as he's throwing 14.24 and his opponents are throwing 8.28. He manages distance well, and he has great kicks if you give him room. He's been knocked down only once in 102 significant strikes absorbed. Nchukwi is great when he pressures. When he does that and he's walking people down, he can get his clinch game going, and he can also crowd the kicker. In this case, that would be Ulberg, and use those Muay Thai techniques, the knees, the elbows that he uses so well, and he'll be able to use those weapons and be able to limit some of the weapons that Ulberg uses if he's pressuring here. We see that Tafon Nchukwi has had 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, and he has been dropped once, and that was by Azamat Murzakanov. Tafon will be better in the clinch, and when he will be at his best when he is pressuring. His Muay Thai style works well for him at this level in the clinch, and he throws bombs, and he has deceptively good conditioning and volume for a man his frame. When it comes to the grappling, too, I got to give the edge to Nchukwi. Now, Ulberg has attempted only 2 takedowns in 3 fights. He's gotten both of them. But as we can see here, 93% of Carlos Ulberg's fights have taken place at striking range. So the guy's really not in grappling positions at all. He would prefer to keep it at striking range as he has a kickboxing base. I like the advantages Tafon has in this realm because of his ability to be able to use his strength in the clinch to outland and work his opponents there. And he has good trips to potentially win minutes on the ground with his top game. Ulberg doesn't really go for takedowns, but he got both that he attempted, but he has less than 6% control time. Tafon has been efficient in the grappling, out-controlling his opponents 13.5% to 8%. Even though he's given up as many takedowns as he's gotten. So you see that his opponents have gotten 4 of 14. He's gotten 4 of 7, but he's out-controlling his opponents. So we like the efficiency there. And then when it comes to the strength of schedule, it's definitely advantage in Nchukwi here, as he's got a 1 ratio as opposed to a 0.67 ratio for Ulberg, and 4 total fights for Nchukwi, while it's 3.33 for Ulberg's opponents. And we see that the wins are better here, as Ulberg has never beaten anybody that's had a UFC win, while Nchukwi has gotten a couple of good wins at this level and is beating guys with a 0.75 win-to-loss ratio and 4.67 total fights. And the losses are both pretty good for both guys. So, yeah, we see a loss to Azamat Murzakanov, and the losses for Ulberg are only to Nchukwi. So, Nchukwi also lost to Junyoung Park at 185. So, yeah, I mean, like, in this fight, I think that Nchukwi might be able to find ways to win minutes on the ground, but he's got to fight smart. If he just wants to stand in front of Carlos Ulberg and circle, Ulberg would be able to use his kicks to be able to maintain distance, and will probably be throwing a little bit more volume, and will probably be landing I don't want to say the harder strikes, but just making it look a little bit better, because Nchukwi is not as pretty to watch, but he throws with power. But when he's really marching his opponents down, that's when he's at his best. And I noticed, that when Ulberg was in that Nchukwi fight, when Nchukwi was walking down Ulberg, he really had no answer for it. And Nchukwi in particular, in the Mike Rodriguez fight and in the Jamie Pickett fight, we saw him pressuring those opponents and having a ton of success in the striking here. And, I do think that he can potentially, if he gets this to the clinch, that he's going to be much better there, because he's much stronger, because he uses trips well there in order to get the fight to the ground. And because his Muay Thai style, which uses those elbows and those knees in the clinch, is going to be a lot more better suited for that clinch game than what the style of Ulberg is, which is to use his natural length and size to maintain distance, and his athletic ability to be able to keep it at distance. So, and then also, I think if Nchukwi really does pressure Ulberg, that it's going to be, we're going to see Nchukwi as the guy who actually has the better gas tank here, because he's got deceptively good conditioning for a man with as much muscle as he has on his frame. And we can see that this guy is not exactly a guy who's low volume. He's throwing 11.7 significant strike attempts per minute, while his opponents are throwing 8.88. So it's Tafon is throwing a lot of volume, and he doesn't just manage his energy well. He pushes a good pace for the full 15 minutes. And we saw Ulberg break under that pace in the Kennedy and Nchukwi fight after about a round and a half. And so I think that if Nchukwi uses pressure here, that he's going to walk down Carlos Ulberg and probably make this look pretty easy, cruise to a victory here, and potentially even get this guy out of there. But yeah, I'm thinking Tafon Nchukwi by third round knockout here against Carlos Ulberg in this fight. And I think that brings us to the main card. No, it actually doesn't. It brings us to the featured prelim here, which is going to be Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. So we've got the action man, ladies and gentlemen, and he is sitting at minus 135. The action man will be fighting Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, coming back as the underdog at plus 115. The fight doesn't go to decision. No, you did not read that wrong, ladies and gentlemen. That is minus 750. An absolutely crazy implied probability here. So let me get my notes up for this fight. The measurables advantage, I'm going with Vieira here, as he is 2 years younger, 2 inches taller, and it's going to be Curtis, though, who has the 2-inch reach advantage. But it's Rodolfo Vieira who's the natural middleweight here. So he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be the younger guy. He's going to be the more natural middleweight frame. But in experience, it's obviously advantage Curtis here, as he's got 27 more pro fights. He's got about 370 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 7.5 more years as a pro. Vieira has the UFC experience edge here, as he's got 1 more fight and about 8 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the durability and the finish stats, it's going to be even, because the finish stats obviously go to Rodolfo Vieira, as he's got a 100% finish rate in his 8 wins, but he's also been finished in his only loss. So all 9 of Rodolfo Vieira's fights have finished inside the distance. And if I'm not mistaken, he's only been to the 3rd round once, if I remember correctly. And Chris Curtis, he's got a 61% finish rate, but he's incredibly durable, as he's only been finished in 2 of 8 losses. One of those losses was a submission to Tom Galicchio by rear naked choke, and that was 11 years ago. And the other finish loss was a knockout loss to Ray Cooper III. And that fight was the 2nd fight that Chris Curtis had that night. So he had just lost to Magomedov or whatever in a 2-round decision. And then he wound up losing the knockout to Ray Cooper. So Chris Curtis is way more durable than Rodolfo Vieira. And Chris Curtis has actually finished all 3 of his UFC wins inside the distance. But Rodolfo Vieira is the definition of a killer-be-killed fighter, and he is a very dangerous grappler. So this is a classic striker versus grappler matchup. The striking is Curtis all day, and it's not even close. The grappling is Vieira all day, and it's not even close. The question is, which one of these guys is going to be able to implement their game plan, And even if Rodolfo Vieira is able to implement that game plan successfully in the 1st round, take down Chris Curtis, get on top of him, hunt for submissions. If he's not successful, we know, and we've seen him death gas before in the past, like he did against Anthony Hernandez, and he wound up getting finished in the 2nd round by a BJJ purple belt via guillotine. Very crazy, because that's one of Hernandez's best submissions, but he shouldn't be able to submit Rodolfo Vieira, but Rodolfo Vieira completely death-gassed in that fight. I think it was part adrenaline dump and part bad conditioning, but Rodolfo Vieira, when you look at the type of body that he has the kind of conditioning that you would expect somebody who has that body to have. Now, Tafon Nchukwi is like the exception of somebody who's all bricked up and all muscle, but they can go for a long period of time and push a heavy pace for a full 15 minutes. But Tafon Nchukwi isn't shooting like 4 takedowns every round. He's mostly just pushing a pressuring striking pace. Vieira has got to try to get this fight to the ground, because Chris Curtis is just a very terrifying striker that can absolutely put people out. He's landing knockdowns on 1.8% of the significant strikes that he's landing. At the UFC level, in only 3 fights, he's averaging almost 2 knockdowns per 15 minutes. He's striking at a 67.5% accuracy, and outlanding his opponents by almost 1 significant strike per minute. And Vieira looks terrified to strike. He throws far less volume than his opponents. He lands like over 1.4 less significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. But we see Chris Curtis has never attempted a takedown and shown 100% takedown defense in the UFC, and he's kept his fight standing 95% of the time, which is, if he's successful doing that, he's going to win, But Rodolfo Vieira is getting 43% control time and allowing 5% control time. So almost 50% of the 31 minutes that Rodolfo Vieira has been in the UFC cage have been spent in control time positions for or against where he's doing his best work. So, it's striker versus grappler. If you think Vieira is able to get this fight to the ground, get on top, then you're probably picking Rodolfo Vieira and taking that dog money. If you think that he can't finish it once it gets down there, then you're thinking Chris Curtis probably knocks him out in the second round or maybe in the third. Chris has faced a lot of takedown attempts in his career. He's stuffed all 6 that he's seen at this level, and he's faced 2 good grapplers already thus far and beaten them in Phil Hawes and Brendan Allen. His last match before those were against Kenny Robertson, who's a very good wrestler. And Chris Curtis has just been around the block. He's fought some very good competition here. We know that he's fought Magomed Karamov and he fought Ray Cooper. And, he's got some losses to some guys. Here's the action, man. We see a win over Portland Pringle III, a win over Will Santiago here in CES. Lost to Nishan Burrell, but he's also beaten Nishan Burrell. He's got a loss to Bilal Muhammad. Forrest Petz, and then Tom Galicchio was the first guy to ever finish him. There's that win over Burrell back in the day. So, yeah, this guy's been around since 2009. He even has a couple of amateur fights. The guy will take any fight on any day at any weight class. Chris Curtis is the action man. And if you stand too long with this guy, you are probably getting knocked out. Very, very smooth striker, a natural southpaw who's got a very fast and laser-like left hand that he throws like a piston with very little wind-up. And when he hits you on the chin, you usually go out. So striker versus grappler, you guys, who do you got? I think I'm going with Chris Curtis here. I can't pick against the action man. I think that even if it does go to the ground, he will be able to stay safe. And if he's able to stay safe down there and not get submitted, kind of like Anthony Hernandez did, just don't make mistakes. If he does take you down, I think it's just a matter of time in the second round before Chris starts to stuff those takedown attempts as Rodolfo becomes a little more tired, and then it'll be easy to find Rodolfo's chin. I'll call Chris Curtis by second round knockout. What a fight, though. I cannot wait for this fight. It's going to be one of the most action-packed, best striker versus grappler matchups that we've seen in a very long time. And let me get over here. Let me see what's going on. So I think I saw that somebody else gave a donation here. Yes, my guy Zach Singleton in the room saying, hope the bookies slip up and we all get rich. Let's go, man. Ring a ding ding. Thank you for the donation, Zach. I appreciate you, man. Let's see here. And let's go. Well, the next fight is going to be Nate Maness going up against Umar Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov is sitting at minus 1,200 right now on Bet Online. The comeback on Nate Maness plus 650. The fight doesn't go to decision on Bet Online, sitting right now at minus 210. I'm going to give the measurables advantage here to Maness, as he is 2 inches taller and he has a 3-inch reach advantage here, as we can see. So he's got the size advantage. Umar's 4 years younger, but they're similarly experienced here, and Nate's right in the prime of his career, so I don't see that as being a huge advantage. So I'll give it just a slight edge to Maness when it comes to the tail of the tape. And when it comes to the experience, I'm also giving another slight edge to Maness here, as he's got one more pro fight. He's been a pro for about 3.5 more years, but it's actually Nurmagomedov, who has about 10 more minutes in the pro cage. Nate, one more fight at the UFC level and almost 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I have to say that the slight edge goes to Nurmagomedov. Umar and Nate have identical finish rates at 57%. They've both finished 8 of their 14 pro wins inside the distance. However, at the UFC level, Umar has a 100% finish rate, while it's only 67% for Maness. And Nate's never been finished in his only pro loss, and Umar has never lost, so he's never been finished. When it comes to the striking, hang on, let me get. When it comes to the striking, I have it even. If we look at the numbers here, both of these guys are very high-level strikers. Umar's ratios have been better, as has his defense and ability to not get knocked down. However, Nate's shown more power, as he's landed 2 knockdowns in 3 UFC fights. Umar has better kicks, while Nate has power in both hands. So Umar is a very flashy kicker. He throws question mark kicks, he throws leg kicks, body kicks, but he definitely likes to keep distance with his kicks. Nate Maness has definitely got power in both hands and wants to be in boxing range. He does throw kicks as well, but he's definitely a lot more focused on his hands, while Umar's a striker that's a lot more focused on his feet. Now, what I think is very important to note is that if this fight stays on the feet, Nate's got a chance, because Umar is a very talented, very tricky striker, but Nate Maness has got serious power, only landing 85 significant strikes, but having 2 knockdowns and 2 wins by knockout is very, very impressive. And Umar does like to fall in love with those kicks. And if he's not careful, he could get countered if he throws them lazily. So Umar is a very, very special fighter. He's very well-rounded, excellent conditioning, excellent discipline. The pedigree is there. But when you watch the tape on Umar, he's not Khabib. He's a different style of fighter. When he goes to the wrestling, is excellent with it, but he's not as committed to it as Khabib was. We've seen 11 takedowns at the UFC level from Umar, but when you watch regional scene footage on him, he's not quite as committed to it as you think that he would be. You would think that you'd be seeing him shoot takedowns in every single round and chain them together, but we really don't see him shooting that much. And we've seen Nate Maness stop 87% of the takedowns that have come his way, but he also has been controlled for 43% of the cage time thus far. And that's because when he fought Johnny Munoz Jr., he kind of was put up against the fence and wasn't able to move there. That's really not Umar's game. Umar's not going to hold you up against the fence and try to win minutes that way. He's going to win minutes distance striking, and then when he finds the right opportunity to enter on a takedown so he doesn't waste energy, he'll try to take you down and win minutes on the ground and potentially get to your back and try to choke you out. But Nate, 50% of his fights taking place standing. For Umar, it's about 60% of his fights that are taking place standing, showing 80% takedown defense thus far, only been controlled for 2%, while Nate Maness has been controlled for 43%. So definitely you'd have to think that if Umar gets takedowns, he should easily be the better grappler here and be the one that is way, way more likely to win minutes and moments in the grappling exchanges. He is a Nurmagomedov after all. And we saw how, he just went through Brian Kelleher like a hot knife through butter. He just got that takedown, got around to his back, and once he was, had his chest pressed to Kelleher's back, it was over shortly thereafter. And, this is a guy who finishes with that rear naked choke, which is still the most effective submission at the UFC level. So, yeah, it's I'll give the strength of schedule advantage actually to Nate Maness, though. As the UFC strength of schedule thus far leans Maness, and Nate and Umar both fought really high level competition on the regional scene. So yeah, the pick is going to be Umar Nurmagomedov, but is there any chance that I'm laying minus 1,200 on Umar Nurmagomedov? No, the fight doesn't go to decision is an interesting bet at minus 200, because I think if Umar wins, he is very likely to finish just because, his submission game is so good. And if we see Nate Maness get taken down and held down, that, he's going to be very live to get that submission. But Nate Maness, is a guy who, if Umar gets too comfortable in the striking exchanges, he could get caught. And we could see, Nate finish this fight as well. We just don't know how Umar is going to respond to adversity, because we haven't seen him in any adversity yet. So the pick's going to be Umar Nurmagomedov to win this one. I think he probably, chokes him out in the second round if he's able to get that fight to the ground. But I am not going to be laying minus 1,200. I won't be laying juice to get the inside the distance prop, which is sitting at minus 170 right now. Nurmagomedov by decision at plus 175. Maness by KO at plus 1,000 is interesting to me, because I think it's really his only path. But, if he could win minutes on the feet, Nate Maness is just as good of a striker as Umar Nurmagomedov. And I want to just remind everybody that this guy was fighting really good competition on the regional scene, and I mean Nate Maness. We know that Nurmagomedov had fights against Kakramanov and a couple other really good guys, experienced guys. But you look at Maness here, he fought Jesse Arnett. He fought Taylor Lapillus. Kellen Van Camp, who's the kid who lost to Fialio's little brother. Kyle Machado. So, he's got some good names on his, even Vito Ricketts' brother. So, but, he's fighting guys like this Jesse Arnett win was very good. And I want to remind everybody that Jesse Arnett just beat a guy that was 14-0, a Dagestani Sambo champion by the name of Gasen Gusayov in UAE Warriors. And his last two losses prior to that were to soon to be in the UFC Denis Lavrentev, who's an absolute stud, and Ray Borg. And he's got a win over this guy who was an undefeated wrestler. And I remember after Jesse Arnett won that fight in UAE Warriors, I was watching, and he's telling the Russians, that were in this guy's corner, he's like, hey, you speak Russian and English, translate. I've been wrestling my whole life. Tell him he can't just come in here and out wrestle me. So, this guy's been out there against guys like Jesse Arnett that are very good wrestlers. I think that Nate Maness is going to be a little more live than what the line is saying that he's going to be. And if this fight is on the feet, I think it's damn near 50-50. And Nate Maness has done a good job of stopping takedowns thus far. And I think he can make this a lot greasier than what the line is. Long story short, I'm not getting anywhere near any bets on Nurmagomedov this weekend, because the props are far too juiced. And I think that Nate Maness is far too live. And I might actually get to a Nate Maness by KO bet, or even just a straight money line bet, just in case, Nurmagomedov slips on a banana peel or comes out with a not great game plan. But let's get on to this next fight here. Thiago Moises is going to be matching up against Christos the Spartan Giagos. So let me see here. We got Giagos at plus 205, Moises at minus 240, and the fight doesn't go at minus 120. So let's see. Let me get my notes up here. When it comes to the tail of the tape and the measurables, Thiago's 5 years younger, while Christos has a 1-inch reach and height advantage. When it comes to the experience, I'm giving a slight edge to Giagos here, as he's got 7 more professional fights. He's got about 30 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 2 more years as a pro, and he's got 1 more UFC level fight. Moises has 5 more minutes in the UFC cage, so the UFC experience is very similar, while Giagos has got a little more pro experience. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving a slight edge to Moises here, as Moises is finishing 60% of his fights, while Giagos, it's 58%, so a slight edge there. But both guys are finishing at 40% rate at the UFC level. But Moises is just a little bit better in the durability numbers as well, as he's been finished in 2 of 4 UFC losses, while Giagos has been finished in 3 of 5, and Moises has been finished in 33% of his 6 pro losses, while Giagos has been finished in 6 of his 9 pro losses, 4 by submission, 2 by knockout. So yeah, I mean, I would give Moises the edge there, as he's been a little bit more durable and just a little bit better finisher on the aggregate. When it comes to the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Giagos here. Christos has much better ratios and differentials than Moises. He's more accurate and he's busier. Moises has shown power, landing 2 knockdowns, but Giagos only has 0. And both have been knocked down about 0.15 times per 15 minutes, but it's Moises who has a better striking defense at 57% to only 49% for Giagos. Now, I'm just giving him the edge based on the metrics here because, Moises is absorbing 4.2 or 4.1 while only landing 2.52. But, it's not like I think Moises can't win minutes if this thing stays in the striking. As a matter of fact, I think he probably will. But the grappling advantage obviously goes to Moises. He's a multiple-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. He gets his takedowns at 35%, and he attempts over 1 submission per 15 minutes. He gets out-controlled, though, at a 2-to-1 ratio, as he gives up 26%, but only gets about 13% control time. And Christos is, and he's only stopping his takedowns at about a 61% clip, which isn't good. Christos is very active going for takedowns, as he's attempted 53 in 10 fights and gotten 22 of them. So 41.5% takedown accuracy is very good. 3.31 takedowns per 15 minutes is very good. And he's almost out-controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. And he gets about twice as many takedowns as his opponents. So the efficiency is right there in about the meaty part of the curve, I would say. What's kind of funny here is that, even though Moises is the better grappler, I could see Giagos winning minutes in the grappling if he chooses to go to the wrestling and tries to, get the fight to the ground. But both guys are going to have that option here. And you see Giagos stopping takedowns at only a 52% clip. Moises only stopping takedowns at a 60% clip. Both of these guys giving up a decent amount of control time against. So I could see this, and both of these guys are spending over 40% of their career in the UFC in control time positions for or against. So I see this as being a very high percentage fight to go into the grappling there. And I think both guys are, they both have chances to be active and dangerous in all parts. I think Moises will be more dangerous, with his submissions, while it'll probably be Giagos a little more dangerous with his striking, especially when it's setting up the takedowns. The thing is, Moises has that strength of schedule advantage here. 1.84 ratio overall to 1.61 for Giagos. More experienced competition, too, for Moises on the aggregate. But look at the wins. This is the key. Moises has wins over guys that are winning competition, 1.08 win-to-loss ratio and 10.4 total fights. While Giagos is beating bums, 0.38 win-to-loss ratio and only 3.6 total fights. They're both losing a good competition, but you can see it here. I mean, Giagos is losing the studs, so is Moises, but the difference is the wins. So let me see if I can bring that up here, you guys. Here's Moises. Moises has got a win over Gladson Cutis, over Kurt Hollabaugh. They're 0-1 and 0-4, but then a win over a 12-13 Michael Johnson, a 10-8 Bobby Green, and a 5-4 Alexander Hernandez. And he's losing the studs. Alvarez 4-1, 4-2 actually now. Islam Makhachev 11-1. Damir Ismagulov is now 5-0. Benil Dariush 15-4. So the guys that are beating him have a 35-7 record, and he's beating guys that have a slightly losing record of 27-30. But Giagos, look at these wins. The best win was over Damir Hadzovic, 4-4 in the UFC. The other 4 guys have a combined total of 1 win. The combined records of the guys that he's beaten, all 5 of them, 5 wins, 18 losses at the UFC level. So I think the biggest, we don't see a big difference on the feet, right? Giagos isn't that much more dangerous than Moises there, but Moises will be a lot more dangerous with the submissions on the ground. And Moises has fought and beaten the the far better brand of competition. I mean, if Giagos were to get this win, Thiago Moises would be by far the most impressive guy that he's beaten. While this win for Moises would be on par, not even really with those wins of like Michael Johnson's a more impressive win than Christos Giagos would be. Bobby Green definitely is. Alexander Hernandez is. So I think that I feel pretty safe saying that Thiago Moises should not find a way to fuck this up, and he should beat Christos Giagos, and I think he probably does it, maybe even in the third round here, as Giagos' gas tank is not very good. When he pushes a wrestling heavy game plan in particular, he gasses out really early. Oh boy. And this is the next fight. Josh Parisian versus Alan Baudot. So I'm going to be a professional and I'm going to break this down because it's my job. But I'd be lying to you guys if I told you that I've done any tape study on this fight. Because I haven't. I haven't done any tape study on this. It's just gonna. This is a funny fight for me. Neither one of these guys I feel are UFC level. The heavyweight division is a division that's lacking in skill right now, and the fact that these two are squaring off against each other is as good of an example of that as we can find right now. So Parisian an inch taller, almost identical reach. Parisian a little bit younger, so maybe a tail of the tape advantage there. 7 more pro fights for Parisian, almost twice as much cage time. So an experience advantage here at the UFC level and as a pro. Parisian, the better finisher here at 85%. Baudot, I think, has a 75% finish rate. This knockout is not accurate because one of his wins was actually a fight where he lost, but it was overturned because the guy tested positive for weed. And instead of just making it a no contest, this was the Todd Stout versus Alan Baudot fight. They actually gave Stout a loss by DQ. So Alan Baudot, while it says 8-4, he's actually 7-5, and he's been finished in 4 of those 5 losses inside the distance. And Josh Parisian has been finished in 3 of his 5 losses. So both of these guys get finished a lot. Both of these guys are good finishers. But in terms of durability, I'm going to give the edge to Josh Parisian because he's doesn't really have any quit in him. While he's not very skilled and he takes a beating a lot of the time, he's never going to give up on a fight, and he's always going to keep fighting until the bell. So I don't think we can really say that about Baudot. In terms of the striking numbers here, I think Baudot will probably be the crisper, more athletic guy here. Parisian's got a really nice spinning fat kick, but that's really about all he does. He kind of throws spinning back fists, spinning fat kicks. He throws flashy strikes for a big dude, and Baudot is not like a huge heavyweight, but he is fast. He is kind of athletic. He's bouncy. He moves well. He moves a lot better than somebody like Parisian will. But neither one of these guys are particularly skilled. It's Parisian who actually has 2 knockdowns, and Baudot has 0. And neither one of these guys has ever been knocked down, but you see that 42% striking defense of Parisian is not good. So I think Baudot probably is the minute winner on the feet. Neither one of these guys really grapples much, but they both get controlled a shit ton. Parisian attempts takedowns, but he doesn't get them. Look, neither one of these guys is very good, you guys. Baudot has faced the better brand of competition here. Baudot has never won, and Parisian losing to some guys like Dante O'Mays and Parker Porter. Baudot loses to Aspinall, Rodrigo Nascimento, and Parker Porter, and Todd Stout. So this guy is on a 4-fight losing streak. It's unbelievable. My God. His last win was over Yuto Nakajima, and I don't even know if that guy's any good. Shout out to my guy Mushroom. I guess that let's see, what's he saying over here? And Joint Smoker, I agree 100% that Roque deserved the win versus Parisian. Roque should be the one fighting Baudot. Absolutely, I'm with you. And Mushroom saying 1 loss to Porter, 1 beat Porter. They both beat anorexia, that's for sure. How does that MMA math work? Well, I think it works because we're going to say that the fight goes to disappointments is probably going to be minus 500, but I think it's a lock. I think I put it in all your parlays. And I think if Alan Baudot wins, it's going to be because the fight ends by diabetes, and they have to take Josh Parisian's foot after it falls off during a spinning fat kick attempt. I guess I'm picking Alan Baudot, huh? But, like, you guys understand that I have to pick somebody, right? I mean, it's not my fault. So this isn't – whatever happens, just remind yourself while you're watching this fight that this isn't your Uncle Weezy's fault. I had nothing to do with this fight being made. I had nothing to do with these guys being allowed into the UFC. And I had nothing to do with the decision at the UFC level to say, not only are we giving you guys Josh Parisian versus Alan Baudot, but we're putting it on the main card. And they will be fighting later in the night than Umar Nurmagomedov, than Thiago Moises. This fight takes place after Rodolfo Vieira versus the Action Man. Just let that sink in for a minute. I'll wait. I got a drink. Let it sink in. The fuck are you doing, UFC? Huh? This is on the main card. Spinning fat kicks, diabetes, love handles. Oh, God. Do we have enough time to let that sink in, you guys? Huh? Well, good. Let's move on. Let's move on to Neil Magny versus Shavkat, you guys. What a fight. And by the way, that's the line there. Baudot minus 115, Josh Parisian minus 105. Fight ends in disappointment minus 200. I'm picking Baudot. But in this one, Shavkat Rakhmonov minus 400. Neil Magny plus 300. Fight doesn't go minus 190. The Nomad, 7 years younger, while Neil Magny will be the bigger dude here with 6'3" and an 80-inch reach. So he's going to have a 2-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage. Also a huge experience advantage. He's got 18 more professional fights, 270 more minutes in the pro cage, about 4 more years as a pro, 22 more UFC level fights, and about 316 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to durability and finish stats, it's all Rakhmonov. 15 fights, 15 wins, 15 finishes, 0 losses for Shavkat. Neil Magny, a 40% finish rate as a pro, a 33% finish rate in the UFC, and he has been finished in 5 of his 7 UFC losses and in 6 of his 8 pro losses. So not only is Shavkat more durable, he's also the better finisher here. So when it comes to the striking, Shavkat is a moment winner and Magny is a minute winner. We see Magny over this massive 25-fight sample size throws 8 per minute, and his opponents only throw 5. That's amazing over that big of a sample size. Huge volume advantage. Huge striking ratio and differential here as he lands 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do over a massive sample size. Over 55% striking defense. He's been knocked down 8 times in 25 fights. Shavkat's a guy whose numbers look fantastic, but only over a 3-fight sample size. So, 2.94 landed, only 1.56 absorbed, and he also throws about 1.8 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. And he's never been knocked down, and he's landed 1 knockdown in 3 UFC fights. When it comes to the grappling, once again, Magny, the minute winner, Shavkat, the moment winner. Magny attempting 130 takedowns in 25 fights, getting them at a 40% clip, averaging 2.37 per 15 minutes. Works for submissions. Spends about 53% of his fights in control time positions for or against, but the efficiency isn't really there. He's landed 16 more takedowns than his opponents have. He's attempted 41 more takedowns than his opponents have, yet his opponents out-control him 30.5% to to 22.5%. So the efficiency for Magny isn't quite there. While Rachmanov has landed 2 takedowns, given up 0. He's out-controlled his opponents 31.3% to 23.5%. Shavkat has spent a lot of time being controlled up against the cage by Prazeres and Oliveira, but he's also gotten 2 of the 6 takedowns that he's went for and stuffed 100% of the takedowns that have come his way. When it comes to the strength of schedule, the numbers are actually pretty even here. They both fight experienced competition. It's Shavkat who's got the better ratio, but Magny, over a very long 25-fight sample size, has really fought and beaten and the better brand of competition here. But Shavkat so far has beaten Carlston Harris, Michel Prazeres, and Alex Oliveira. And the Prazeres and the Oliveira really kind of bring up that ratio and the experience level, but we have to keep in mind that he got, Prazeres as a 40-year-old after a 2-year layoff, and after he was off the steroids. So Prazeres coming into that fight with like an 11-3 UFC record, but he didn't really get the best version of Prazeres, but still clowned on him. While Magny's been fighting guys like Dos Anjos, just a really good list of names from top to bottom here, and we'll kind of take a look at it, and we can see the difference here. As we see that these wins over Oliveira, Prazeres, and Harris are very good, and they have winning records, but we see wins over guys like Robbie Lawler, a former champion, and Anthony Rocco Martin. This guy's, taking pisses on casino floors and then beating up security guards who try to stop him from pissing on the floor. I mean, you're going to lose to that guy. He's a fucking G. Li Jing Liang, Carlos Condit, Johnny Hendricks, former champion, Kelvin Gastelum. So he's had a lot of good wins, and he's losing to top-notch grapplers like Maya, like Dos Anjos, and then great strikers like Ponzinibbio and Lorenzo Larkin, and Michael Chiesa, another top-notch grappler. Wins over Jeff Neal, a very close split decision with Max Griffin. But the way that Max kind of dominated him in the striking exchanges and the way that Shavkat wins moments, I really got to believe that this is going to be Shavkat all day, you guys. He's such a talented finisher, and he's such a great submission grappler. He can get stuff from the bottom. He can get it from the top. When he gets on top, his ground and pound finishes fights. This guy is very, very good everywhere, and he's about as good of a moment winner as I have ever seen. And because Shavkat's so well-rounded, what I said on the Balls Deep breakdown, and the link to that Balls Deep breakdown if you want a more nuanced breakdown of this fight, it's in the description of this video. But what I had said was it's going to be hard for Neal to find places where he can feel safe here. So, I think that Shavkat inside the distance is a very safe piece here. It's how he wins fights. He's never won a decision. But if this fight does go the full 15 minutes, it might mean that Neil Magny found ways to win minutes and found ways to be comfortable. And I think if this fight stays at distance striking, actually that Neil Magny can win minutes. And I think he can win minutes up against the cage as well. And he's a wily veteran who knows how to game plan and who brings awesome conditioning all the time and uses that volume and conditioning as a weapon. It's going to be an interesting stylistic matchup for Shavkat, because even though it shows that Shavkat throws a lot more volume than his opponents, you watch the tape on this guy, you're going to see he's very low volume, especially in comparison to Magny. So I think the decision-only prop at Neil Magny at sitting plus 275 or better is going to be I'm going to be looking at that, because I think Shavkat is not a great minute winner. And if this fight goes the full 15 minutes, that it'll be much better chance than plus 300 that Magny gets that nod. So decision only prop for Magny, but I do think that Shavkat inside the distance could potentially be like a greasy 4-legger parlay piece. But yeah, I'm picking Shavkat Rachmanov to win this one inside the distance by second round knockout. And that brings us to the main event. And Also, if you look in the description of this video, you will find that DFS by the Numbers and I did a breakdown of this fight on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. You can check that out. Go subscribe to the MMA Engine YouTube channel if you haven't already. But we broke down this fantastic main event between Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot. Now, when we go to the measurables here, I'm giving the advantage to Tsarukyan because he's 6 years younger. But it's Gamrot who's actually 3 inches taller, but I like that 2-inch reach advantage for Tsarukyan. So 6 years younger, 2-inch of reach for Tsarukyan, 3 inches taller, and a southpaw for Gamrot. So really great camps for both of them. Gamrot, ATT, Tiger Muay Thai for Tsarukyan, but I also think that Tsarukyan has been in South Florida as well, and maybe even did some training at Sanford, but I'm not positive about that. When it comes to the experience, I'm giving a slight edge to Gamrot here, as he's got 2 more professional fights. He's got 110 more minutes in the pro cage, 3.5 more years as a pro. But it's Arman who's been the busier fighter, fighting 3 times per year on his almost 7-year career, as opposed to Gamrot, who fought a little more than 2 times per year. Arman also has 2 more fights at the UFC level and almost 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the slight edge here to Gamrot. Mateusz doesn't finish at as high of a percentage as Arman does. As we see, Mateusz is at 60%, and for Arman, it is 67%. But Mateusz has finished all 3 of his UFC wins here. As we see, Arman has finished 2 of his 5 UFC wins. So 100% UFC finish rate for Gamrot, 40% UFC finish rate for Tsarukyan. And Mateusz has never been finished as a pro, while Tsarukyan has been finished once, and it was back in 2015 when Arman was 19 years old. So got to give that slight edge to Gamrot for durability and finish stats here. In the striking, in my opinion, it's too close to call. Both guys have similar striking stats thus far in the UFC. Tsarukyan's ratios, accuracy, volume, and durability are all superior to Gamrot. While Mateusz throws more volumes, lands knockdowns at a higher percentage, and has almost 65% striking defense compared to 61.5% for Arman. So very, very close numbers here. But we see Gamrot a little bit chinnier, but also a little more powerful and a little more defensively responsible. But Arman, with the better ratios here, throws more volume than his opponents and is just a touch more accurate, and while being a little more durable, having never been knocked down. But in the grappling, I'm going to give the slight edge here to Tsarukyan. If you throw out the Makhachev fight, Tsarukyan has shown excellent numbers thus far in the UFC. 47.5% control time for, only 4% control time against. That's without the Makhachev fight. 15 of 31 on his takedowns, with 100% takedown defense against in 10 attempts. Mateusz has attempted more takedowns per minute thus far compared to Arman, but has achieved much less control time. I think this leans in the favor of Arman, who has been a control time monster. Mateusz has been excellent in the grappling, average 5.83 takedowns per 15 minutes and 20% control time for. He's also more active looking for submissions, attempting 0.5 submission attempts for 15 minutes. Mateusz also has 100% takedown defense, but he's only faced 2 submission attempts. So I think Gamrot could be the more active wrestler here, but I think Tsarukyan, when you throw out that Makhachev fight, 20% to 0.2% is excellent for Gamrot in terms of the control time numbers, but he's out takedowning his opponents 15-1 and out takedowning them 12-0. While Tsarukyan, when you throw out that Makhachev fight, he's out controlling his opponents 16, or out takedowning them 16-0, or 15-0, but he's out controlling them over 47.5% to 4%. So I just think that if there's one of these 2 guys that's going to be a little more likely to win minutes with the grappling, with the top control, that it's going to be Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan, 100% takedown defense outside of that Makhachev fight. And if this stays on the feet, I think that it's going to be very close. Tsarukyan and Gamrot both have excellent conditioning. When it comes to the strength of schedule numbers, we can see here that Tsarukyan has the better ratio, while Gamrot is fighting the more experienced competition. And it's the same thing with the wins. Better win-loss ratio for Tsarukyan, more experienced competition for Gamrot. It's all very close. The tail of the tape is close. The experience is close. The finish stats is close. The striking is close. The grappling is close. Even the strength of schedule is close. Yet we've got one guy here that's minus 240, and the other guy is plus 200. It just seems like a very, very wide line. I don't think Tsarukyan is that much better than Gamrot. I just think that when you dig a little bit deeper into these stats, you would probably come to the conclusion that it's going to be Tsarukyan that's more likely to win minutes on the ground. And then everything else, in my opinion, is up for grabs. Now, I'm not laying minus 240, but right now you can get Tsarukyan 4-5 decision on FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken, at, let me see if this is updated. Yeah, there we go. I think Tsarukyan 4-5 decision. I heard plus 105. So if that's the case, I think that's a pretty good look. Plus money to get him by his best win condition, and Gamrot has never been finished. And he potentially, if the ground and pound does pile up for Tsarukyan, I could see him getting a finish. But Gamrot is an ADCC champion, really high-level grappler, very experienced wrestler, 5-round fight experience as well. I think that this is a hell of a main event, one of the highest-level fights that we're going to see in the lightweight division for a minute. And I'm picking Arman Tsarukyan to win it. I think he might even get a late finish here. Tsarukyan 4-5 decision will probably be the bet for this fight. But yeah, I think that gets us through it, you guys. We went through all 12 fights. We feel like we've got some really good matchups on this card. I love the main event. I love the co-main event. I'm excited to see Umar. I'm excited to see Rodolfo versus Chris Curtis. I'm excited to see Paiva versus Morozov. Little monster kicking off the card here. But yeah, this is a great night of fights. This is a great card from top to bottom. And we see, Tsarukyan's was sitting at minus 280 here. Moises plus 240. Fight doesn't go at minus 130 is something I'm looking at here. And the reason for that is, if we were to look at this main event on the prop template, everybody, we can see that 5 of their 10 combined fights have finished inside the distance, but this is a 5-round fight. And 5-round fights in the UFC for the lightweight division are finishing 72% of the time, and we're only paying 56.5% here at minus 130. And I think I even saw it at minus 125 on DraftKings, which makes it an even better buy here. But I like the fight doesn't go for the main event because of that analytics play. If 72% of these fights are finishing inside the distance, we've never seen either of these guys go 5 rounds yet at the UFC level. And both of these guys push a very grappling-heavy game plan and are excellent submission grapplers. So I think the likelihood for a ground and pound finish, a knockout on the feet, a submission, all very live with these two fighters. So like the fight doesn't go, like Tsarukyan by decision, and like Tsarukyan 4-5 decision. But I think the money line is just too much. It's too wide because Gamrot is not completely overmatched anywhere in this fight. Here's my tracked bets that I have so far. There are only 2, but I'm going to be adding to that as the week goes on. Last week, we had all the props out already, but this week, they just got main event props out on FanDuel, and I think DraftKings has no props out yet. So what I have is the Vanessa Demopoulos finish only prop for 1 unit at plus 190. Like I say, Vanessa a much better finisher than Jinh Frey and also much more durable than Jinh Frey. So I think Vanessa's only path, despite her being a big underdog, is to get an inside the distance finish because she hasn't been a good minute winner thus far. So I'm depending on her durability, and I'm depending on her submission grappling to potentially get a plus 190 cash on a 1-unit bet here. And the only money line bet I have is Tafon and Nchukwi at even money here at about minus 103. I went 1.5 units on that. I think Tafon's going to pressure Carlos. And if he does that consistently, Carlos won't be comfortable. I think Tafon will be the better grappler here. I think he'll have the much better and effective, more effective clinch striking. So I do like Tafon to win this fight. As far as a greasy 4-leg parlay, I'm not going to give you guys one tonight, but I will tell you what I'm thinking. Because there aren't any props out yet, I haven't been able to kind of shop around and determine not only which props I like, but which props are best priced. So until I have more information and more props out, I can't really give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the Tafon and Nchukwi money line. I'm thinking potentially the Sergey Morozov money line as being a good piece. I'm thinking TJ Brown inside the distance as a good piece here because I like his striking and I like his ability to be able to get submissions on the ground. And I'm not really sold on Shayilan. I also like Rachmanov inside the distance. And I also like Jinh Frey by decision because I think she's the much better minute winner here. And I could even see maybe getting to a Brian Kelleher plus money bet or a Cody Durden at plus 100. So there's a bunch of pieces that I like. But until I find out which ones I think have the best value, I'm not going to make it official. What I'll do is I'll just pre-record something on here, put it on my YouTube channel, and it'll be called Uncle Weezy's Greasy 4-Leg Parlay for UFC Vegas 57. So that leaves us with one more order of business to handle, you guys, and that is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. So I think that there are giving, there's a lot of good spots here. Jinh Frey is a big favorite. Bautista is almost minus 200. Morozov minus 140. TJ Brown sitting at minus 210. Umar Nurmagomedov at minus 1200. Thiago Moises sitting around minus 250. Shavkat Rachmanov at minus 400. But I've got to find something that's not only priced correctly, but where I feel like the read is something that makes me feel safe that this person gets a win and also makes me feel safe that there's a good chance that the fight finishes inside the distance. And so this week, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, the guy carrying the flag, is going to be a guy that I think that can make this happen 4 weeks in a row because we've already got 3 weeks in a row on the ass shaving of the week. And Phil Hawes damn near killed Duran Win last week and carried that flag with pride and with distinction for his Uncle Weezy. So I'm picking somebody that I think that can do it again this week. It's somebody who's fight IQ I don't particularly like, but I don't think it necessarily matters in this fight because his opponent is so one-dimensional. So I think this week, you guys, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, the man carrying the flag, will be TJ Brown to shave the ass of Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, the one-dimensional wrestler with ass striking, with really not that great of takedowns, decent top control, but bad submission defense. And the one thing that we have noticed about Shayilan Nuerdanbieke over the years is that he can absolutely get finishes. But he's really only finishing Chinese cans, 28-37, beating guys named Yigu Bele in a bag of wangs. While TJ Brown has got some pretty good wins on his resume, and he's getting that arm triangle choke at an alarming rate. Nuerdanbieke has been subbed in, I believe, 8 of his 10 losses. Is that correct? Let me just make sure on that number. Because I think that Brown can easily knock this dude out on the feet. His striking is that bad on the feet. But Shayilan has been subbed in 6 of his 10 losses, knocked out in 2 of them. He's been finished in 8 of his 10 losses. And like I say, even though he's finishing at a 76% rate, the guys that he's finishing are absolute bums. So I believe that one-dimensional wrestling attack is going to get sniffed out early. TJ will probably land big strikes on the feet, will probably be able to get on top at some point in the grappling and either choke this dude out, get a rear naked choke, take the back standing, or just flatline this dude. So TJ Brown inside the distance. I love that bet. It is going to be a track bet this week at better than plus 250. Just got to wait for it to come out on these other books to see if it's going to be available. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me on a Tuesday night. 88 of you still in here hanging out with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Check me out tomorrow on the on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show. I'll be back here on the Uncle Weezy YouTube channel, 10:30 Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast to do Ask Weezy. And then you can also check me out again on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for Propability. We will be going through all 12 fights on this prop template, trying to find the best time props that stick out. We'll give you a probability parlay, and we're going to try to find more ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 57. God bless each and every one of you guys for hanging out in here for just the tip with your Uncle Weezy on a Tuesday night. And let's make a ton of money for UFC Vegas 57. Turn this around. I'm on a 4-event losing streak. I'm planning on getting that winning streak going this week, ending the losing streak, and getting that arrow pointing back up again. And with your help, I'm going to do it. So good night, everybody. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 57. And I will see you guys tomorrow night right here on my channel at 10:30 and at Pub Sports Radio's channel at 6 o'clock for the DFS show. Good night, everybody. Take care.